You are listening to a Modern Nonprofit Podcast, a podcast for leaders of today's nonprofits. We focus on the most pressing issues in a modern nonprofit, from grant writing and fundraising to back office administration like accounting. If you are looking for tips and hacks to make your nonprofit more modern and intentional, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Tasha Anderson. I've worked with hundreds of nonprofits over many years in different capacities. First as an auditor, then a CFO of a nonprofit, and now I'm a CPA that owns the Charity CFO, an accounting firm working exclusively with nonprofit organizations. I'm passionate about trying to make the work of nonprofits even easier through the most modern practices I've learned from some of our most successful clients. Keep listening. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of a Modern Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Tasha Anderson. I am the founder, I guess, of both this podcast and the Charity CFO. While we are an accounting firm that works exclusively with nonprofits, that's all we do. I like to say we're more of an operational junkie, or I like to say we're an IT company that happens to do accounting for nonprofits. I like to joke sometimes. And the reason for that is because accounting, like probably every profession out there, has started to lean more and more on technology. And not just technology with respect to things like an accounting management system, all of the big names out there that you've heard of, but really how does the accounting system leverage the integration or automations with other platforms, specifically around, some of you that might have membership CRM systems or fundraising databases, or maybe you sell merchandise. And so any of those merchant accounts, any of your credit card processors for donations or events or anything like that. My team's always looking for the best hacks on how to get that information out of those systems into the accounting system so that we can keep track of all the dollars and cents as it comes in. So I typically like to get introduced to people that are merging different technology and have conversations. And that is where we bring me to my friend, Trish Seidel. Trish, you are the head of marketing for a platform that's been around for a minute, but kind of new to the US. And this platform is called Springly. Trish, you and I started working together because we found value in adding a lot of solutions to nonprofits. Number one, technology, but interestingly, we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. Springly and I have been collaborating on some kind of content, more knowledge-based informational content with respect to financial management and accounting for nonprofits. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we dive in, Trish, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Springly and what Springly's trying to do now here in the US?
Absolutely. Well, hi, Tasha. It's so nice to see you, put a face to a name. It's nice to be here.
Finally.
Finally.
We've been working together for a while. Yes.
I know. So great question. So Springly is an all-in-one software to help nonprofit organizations spend more time in the field, going to increase their impact rather than doing all of their really obnoxious administrative work that we all know can be very difficult and easy to get bogged down with. Basically, our goal is to help people who help people. And we want to do this by automating as many of their manual tasks and help them grow their revenue. So we do this through an all-in-one software, like I said before, which has several different features, including accounting and a full CRM and membership donor database system, online payment, fundraising tools, communication, and tons of other tools that a nonprofit would need in order to be successful.
Perfect. So this kind of platform, for all of you that aren't familiar with Springly, tell us a little bit more about what kind of nonprofit, or when should a nonprofit consider a management software like this? And then more specifically, if we can talk about all the features, because Springly is kind of a one-stop shop. And so we'll start first with all of the features.
Sure.
Trish, just kind of the different things that people are like, oh, wow, one software does all of that. And then we'll talk about maybe when a nonprofit should consider launching something like this. So what are the features mostly with Springly right now?
Sure, great question. So we actually work with over 30,000 nonprofits of all different shapes, sizes, sectors, budgets. And we can do this because we're a SaaS platform. A SaaS is a software as a service. And you can kind of think of it like a Netflix or a Spotify. You have an email and a password, you can log in, and everything is there in front of you. This is excellent for nonprofits because you can work in remote areas. You only need an internet connection in order to do it, which means that you can use it on your phone, your tablet, your computer, etc. And because of that ease of use, again, great for nonprofits, we are able to have a software that has a bunch of different tools in one. And so the core of our system is the CRM, which is a membership and
Mm-hmm.
donation management system, meaning that you have a profile database software with, all of your donor membership, volunteer, employee history. You're able to see the last track donation, the last membership, when their membership was renewed, the last payment they made, even the last emails that were sent to them, all in one place. As you can imagine, this is extremely helpful for nonprofits not having to jump between different Excel spreadsheets and have everything in one place.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, our next star feature is the accounting feature. Obviously why we're working together and why we love,
Mm-hmm.
helping nonprofits with their accounting so much. And it's a full accounting suite. So it's basically there to help people be compliant, and it ranges from everyone who doesn't know how to do accounting to expert accountants like yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another system. And we do lots of other things like communication, website development, event management.
Mm-hmm.
And the star of the show is that it all is integrated together. So if I can give you an example to kind of illustrate what that looks like, it's basically like I'm a donor, I'm going to donate to an organization, I'm the nonprofit, right?
Mm-hmm.
My donor profile will be created automatically, the tax receipt is sent automatically, and the accounting entry is also created automatically. So all of
Mm-hmm.
those three different steps that someone would have to do manually is done automatically for you, which is a big time saver.
Right. Well, and two, a big question that I get all the time is that, especially for a little bit larger organizations that might have different people that serve those different functions, the fundraising team has to reconcile with the accounting team. They're two different
Yeah.
systems. So then you have to do a comprehensive reconciliation. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for many of the nonprofits listening, we are in the spring, which means gala season is in full swing. So a lot of event
Fundraising scene is upon us.
information. It is in the volume of transactions that come with that. I know is the bane of most accountants' existence, getting all of that information into multiple systems. And I know I get questions all the time about, Tasha, how can my fundraising system integrate with
Mm-hmm.
my accounting system? And even the biggest players in the game with respect to the financial management and donor database systems, they allege that they integrate pretty well. I've never really seen it work really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I think, some checks and balances there for them to not be able to integrate really well. But Springly's
Totally.
actually able to either you can use the financial management system, right, Trish, or you can integrate
Mm-hmm.
it with something like QuickBooks. So if you want to have your
Sure.
CRM system separate, maybe you don't want to overhaul your accounting platform. Us accountants are a little resistant to change at times,
Fair.
and so if there
We've heard
is,
that before.
yeah,
Go figure.
I will live into that stereotype or at least validate it. And, if kind of dipping your toe into a platform and see what works, there are other integrations that Springly has before just kind of overhauling everything. So
Exactly.
I thought that was really interesting to see that. So I think
Totally.
that Trish, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's always been like an assumption that the bigger your organization is, the more complex your software deck needs to be, your tech deck, right? And so what do I
Yep.
mean by that? So sometimes I think people think, well, if I'm a smaller organization, I can use a one-stop shop like this, or I'm too small, I don't need something like this. Larger organizations, I think, tend to get more of we call it like Cadillac software. They have all of these different
Yeah.
tools, but then they
A
stop
custom
talking to each
solution.
other.
Yeah.
Custom solutions really expensive. They stop talking to each other because they have different departments. Tell me
Yeah.
in your mind of what you've seen. You said you work for 20,000 organizations. Is this
30.
tool
Mm-hmm.
something? Oh, 30,000. I'm sorry. Yeah. Is this a tool only meant for larger organizations, or how do you see this working for both smaller organizations and larger organizations?
So it's a great question. I mean, we do it all. This is again the beauty of that SaaS software is that it is flexible and it can be adapted to many different types of organizations. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, one of our latest clients that we just started working with is the AMVETS National Service Foundation, and they have over 300,000 records in their
Mm-hmm.
CRM with Springly. And so we have these huge organizations that have very complex needs. And then we have, our little homeowners association who has 30 members in a local neighborhood in Virginia, for example,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my home state, shout out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's very flexible. And I think that the major problem is in the perception of how software works is that, like you said, lots of software sell the idea of being able to communicate between one department and the other. But in reality, if those two departments are using two different systems, whether it be Excel and I don't know, Blackbaud, they're not going to be able to communicate with each other because you export different data in different ways, and you're going to spend all this time going back and forth over email or Slack or whatever, right?
Sure.
And so the one solution is to have a single software that communicates within the software, that exports the data, or reads the data, and does everything the same. The technology is the same across the board. And I think that's where lots of time is saved. And I think our latest statistic is that all nonprofits who use our software save up to 700 hours per year in this kind of administrative back and forth. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, knowledge transfer is a big deal. Knowledge transfer is difficult. And so organizations of all shapes and sizes are able to use the Springly software and many different types of software in general.
Well, what I've seen is the biggest headache, not just on the accounting side, because us accountants are control freaks and we don't typically like to integrate our system in with other systems so much. But what I've seen more on the operational side with respect to fundraising is that you'll have, maybe a membership database separate than your fundraising database, or maybe not membership, but let's say like program participants, right? Those that are either like you're either earning money off of or you're servicing those clients or whatever, right? Those aren't necessarily the same people that are paying you, but sometimes they can pay you, or at least in small parts, right? So those are sometimes two completely different systems, or they're in one system and just really poorly, combined. But they're measuring totally different things. And then you have like your event software, so a completely different system, right, for that. And then you have, like your email communication. So think about your marketing arm, right? So all of that is like CRM, keeping the data, who gave us money when, blah, 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 those sort of things. Then you have your event, one time or multiple times a year, whatever. And then you have your like CR or your email marketing system. And what I've seen is people will have, 12 different mailing lists. None of them are connected in any sort of way. And so I remember when I used to work for one nonprofit, I would ask questions like, well, how many donors responded to this campaign? Or, how many donors have been engaged in the last year, whatever. Or how many, I get this sometimes with some of our new clients, they're a membership-based organization and they have no idea, what the status of the membership agreement is, meaning if we have 100 members, we don't know if anybody is, not paid us, because it's a very manual system. So I've seen this jumbled kind of mess. Like the accountants are like, well, if it hit our bank account, we can take care of it. We can figure out who paid us and we'll account for it. But it doesn't really help an organization understand where their money is earned
and where it's going.
Where it's going and how they can grow it, right? And so it's all of those things, the CRM system, the email marketing, the membership, the special events, that are really, I think, fueling some of that fundraising growth, or I should say revenue growth, not necessarily fundraising. So, Springly does all of these things. Springly does all of these things, like kind of one place to organize all of these different pockets of people, where the money has come from, and to be able to run reports and campaigns. When I mean campaigns, like email campaigns and such, for those sort of folks, and be able to organize your data. So I could see where that would help an organization be able to scale. You mentioned you work with small to large organizations.
Oh yeah.
Could you give us maybe a little case study on how better organizing all this data will help your organization grow? I'm sure you've had a client that you've worked with, they were chaotic like this, using your system or just organizing their data, help them actually grow the size of their organization.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you bring up an excellent point, is that most of our clients who come into Springly are working with at least 5 to 6 different tools that don't communicate with each other. They have MailChimp for email, Eventbrite for events. They're using Excel or paper files for their CRM or for their databases. They have QuickBooks for accounting. They use Wix for their website, and none of these tools integrate together, and it can be an extremely painful process. And because lots of our clients are comfortable with this system, it's very hard to help them understand that there's something better out there for them. And I think that lack of visibility and that lack of understanding how important data that transfers across different platforms is, when people understand what we mean and see what the solution is in front of them, their eyes light up and they go, oh my God, I didn't know we could even do this. And exactly. And so I think the first step that we see with organizations in general is that you're streamlining your process is a kind of a V0. That's like what we're looking at starting with when we begin a process with the clients, that we want to put all of their tools out on the table and be like, okay, this is what you're using. What information are you looking for? What information do you have? And how can we help you? The second step is making sure that they're set up correctly in the system, meaning that they have all of their donors and members and volunteers and staff imported into the CRM. We set up their first campaign so there's money coming in, and then they're able to see the direct impact of knowing exactly where their money is coming from, who hasn't paid yet, or who is, late on a payment, what memberships are need to be renewed, when renewal season is coming up, because renewals are done automatically within our system, where the money's going, where the money's coming to, and then you're able to market it correctly. Once you have all that baseline stuff done, you have money coming in, you know where the data is, then you're able to grow your revenue through all of those really nice marketing channels that we have in Springly. Email campaigns, creating your website, making sure your member experience is great, so that members want to renew, making sure your donor experience is fantastic, so that your donors renew and they become recurring donors. So you're not only streamlining your processes and getting everything set up so it's nice and neat and tidy, and you know exactly what's happening when, but also you can help your organization grow through all of those really nice marketing channels that are also going to integrate with everything else.
Yeah. So Trish, I have to go. I have to go and ask another question. I think when people hear all of this, especially because you're right, I see it all the time. The 4 or 5 different platforms just to earn money, because we as the accountants, we're asking for access to, as part of our onboarding of new clients, we're saying, okay, where does your money actually come in? All the different merchant accounts, PayPal, Venmo, Cash, all these things now.
Google Pay, Apple Pay.
Absolutely. Plus, I have one client I'm, just talking to her a little bit earlier today. They have like 3 different credit card processors that somehow or another different places on their website. They get donations. So if I want to figure out, okay, who gave us that that donation, I figure out, okay, which merchant account did that come through? Let me try to go get that report. So we get access to all of these platforms. So I am completely aware of the fact that this is such a cumbersome system for these nonprofits, right? And
especially
I think
coming in as a third party.
100%. The anxiety, I think, for anyone listening, Tash, I already know I need a better system. I already know everything you're describing is what I'm faced with every day. It's a challenge if that position turns over, that all the institutional knowledge on what these platforms are,
knowledge
that
transfer
gets lost. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what that looks like to transition to, obviously we're, here talking about Springly, what that experience is for your clients. I mean, that's a big undertaking. And I've talked with so many nonprofits, like, I know I want to move forward. I want to modernize. I want to simplify. I want to get, a better system in place. I just don't have the capacity to do it. So what is this project of like pulling all this stuff together? What does that even look like?
That's a great question. So maybe the first to say is that everyone who works at Springly comes from the nonprofit, comes from a nonprofit background. Sorry, my brain is moving too fast in my mouth. And so we've been there. We have been there. We still volunteer half a day a month. We actually all go and volunteer. So we are consistently involved in the nonprofit world. We come from this background, so we understand. This is, I think, essential to working in the nonprofit space. So you have to know, you know what I mean? You have to, first of all, have a deep appreciation and understanding of how hard all of us, but especially all of you listening, work, and what you're trying to do with such little time and such little resources. You are doing so much with so little. So that first step is just recognizing how hard you're working and thanking you for your work. The second thing that we want to do is, again, like I said, kind of lay out everything on the table. We want to hear exactly what's wrong. We want to hear exactly why you're coming to us, why you think you need a software, where you think you're getting stuck, what's your pain, tell us what's wrong, you know what I mean, and how we can help you. And then at that point, after speaking with our sales team and making sure that we're also a right fit for each other, there's sometimes we may not be able to help you with what you need.
Right.
And obviously want to redirect you towards someone who's going to be able to help you. But if we can help you, then I hope, we are here with open arms and open hearts and open minds in order to find a solution for you. So what that typically looks like is you have a conversation with one of our sales representatives who will get you set up and give you a demo of what, a personalized demo of how we could probably help you and unique to your organization. So it's not a demo that is the same for every single person. We have information about who you are and what you do first, that we can tailor the demonstration to what we think you need just off of first conversation. And the second thing that we do is that we're going to give you a free trial of the platform so you can play with it, you can feel around with it, you get a hands-on experience with the software. Because if you don't like it, it needs to be easy for you, for your team, for everyone that's going to be involved in the process. Our
Okay.
goal is to make the software as easy as possible. And if if it's not that way, then it's not the right tool for you, but I don't think it is. And then there's a whole onboarding process, and that includes, helping you guys with your data, making sure that your data is imported in correctly. And we can do all of this in a very few steps. There's not a lot, there's nothing that's rushed. If you have questions, we are here to help you. We have an excellent support team. And this also comes from the nonprofit world, so they know exactly what you guys are dealing with. And we're just here to help you and support you in any way that we can.
I love that, the fact that you all come from the nonprofit world and you can understand some of the nuances and the challenges, and really
Absolutely.
understanding like the consequences of changing certain things and the timeline. I think that that's the part.
100%.
I remember when I used to work for a nonprofit, and I would evaluate processes and systems and know that I need a better solution. And I talk about this all the time with our newest clients, that you know, an employee oftentimes in that role is just keeping their head above water. And then the idea of
Absolutely.
creating the space to go and re-engineer a whole function,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much, just I've just not seen many cases where there's bandwidth to actually do that. And that's what I tell people. It's
Totally.
almost like you need a whole consulting team to come in and re-engineer it while your existing team member just keeps plowing through. And the reality is, what organization has the resources to do that sometimes? So it's helpful to understand how these vendor relationships could lean
Yeah,
in on some of that consulting work and do some of the heavy lifting for it.
absolutely.
So,
And I think
um,
there's this idea that you have to do it all at once as well. And you have to
mm,
have everything
yeah,
in there in order to be successful. That's completely untrue. You can launch a campaign and accept new donors while taking the time to import the rest of your historical data. So
yeah.
there's no need to go in and do it all right away.
Mhm.
The best way to do it is to get set up and get used to the system and then import all of that data. And so you have eventually, within a certain time frame, which is up to you to decide. You don't need to have one to the other. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you, as somebody not even related to the nonprofit world, as somebody that has purchased and implemented lots of new software within her own company,
Mm,
sometimes when you're re-engineering things, do it incrementally, slow and steady. Because I've had lots of hard lessons learned, like, oh, we didn't really anticipate that, didn't anticipate that. And I talked to some clients.
yeah.
I talked to a client the other day, or a prospective client, I should say, like, okay, we want you to start, in a month, and we want you to change your entire accounting system, and we want you to revamp all these processes, and we want to start sending stuff to you instead of other, we want to restructure our staff internally. I was like, whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa. I don't know if you've thought through all of these things, but that's a whole lot of change. And sometimes
basically
when you
starting a
move
new
that
company,
quickly, when you change that much in such a short period of time, no doubt we're going to miss things, and we just have to be careful about what those things are that are going to slip through the
for
cracks.
sure. Slow and
Switching
steady wins the
gears.
race.
Exactly, exactly. Switching gears a little bit, I think one of the ways that we got connected is really our commitment to creating resources for nonprofits. So
Yeah.
a lot of times, I know you all saying you work with, as you mentioned, some smaller organizations. We're talking homeowners associations, maybe small congregations of churches that are very volunteer led. I
Yep.
also get connected with a lot of small or startup organizations that are really just looking for those resources to get started. What is the next
Absolutely.
best thing I could do? Or what is some just advice that you can do? I know that Springly's committed to creating some of these resources. We've been collaborating on some resources. Tell us a little bit about what those resources are that you've already done for nonprofits, so that maybe they're not ready to launch a CRM system, but
Fair.
maybe they need something else, or the next step for consideration. What are some of those resources, Trish, that Springly's already put together for those that are listening?
Yeah. So we have a huge blog full of nonprofit resources. We have over 700 articles on our blog that range from, organization and HR to taxes to
Mm-hmm.
fundraising to communication to marketing to growth hacking to, I don't know, payroll.
Mm,
So we have over 700 articles on our blog that are available for free and for download for all nonprofit organizations. And we also have a newsletter that we send out once a week, which you were featured in, Tasha, our very
mm-hmm.
first launch of this newsletter. And so we have that goes out every week, and that newsletter is dedicated to one nonprofit growth hack per week. It's super actionable. Basically, you
Mm,
leave the email knowing exactly what steps you need to take in order to, grow your nonprofit in a very nice, small, consistent way that day. We have a Facebook group called the Nonprofit Management Circle, which is a group of now almost 2,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah, which is just a bunch of nonprofit leaders that come together, that ask each other questions and get support, and
Hmm.
lots of love and encouragement messages there. And so we have that as well. We also have some webinars which are coming soon, and we also have a webinar once a week that talks about Springly and the product that we have. But there are more to come about
Hmm.
how to make your nonprofit more visible, which is coming at the end of the month in March. And then we have our ebook, Tasha, that's
Yes,
coming out.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for
So
all of you that are, I want to ask you that. So, to Trish was alluding to, one of the things that we're working on is a collaboration on just financial management for nonprofits and basic
yeah.
accounting terminology. I know I get this question all the time.
Mhm.
Most people that I come in contact with the nonprofit world will say, I do not necessarily have a business degree. I certainly don't have an accounting background, but I need to know a little bit more about
Yeah,
accounting to speak in an educated way to either my board or my donors or other
totally.
stakeholders. So, Trish, what made you all want to create an ebook about accounting?
It's a great question. So first of all, because we have a partnership with you guys and we love working with you, and we think it's you are fantastic and what you do is essential to the nonprofit world, but also because we kind of want to give the tool and the method.
Mm,
Right. So I feel like a lot of the times, lots of software organizations and software companies, excuse me, kind of throw solutions out there and say, good luck. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like you're just gonna have to figure it out. And that's not what we want to do with
Hmm.
Springly. We want to give you the method, the tool, and the methods. We want you to be able
Mm,
to not just understand the system that you have, but love it. And again, be able to
hmm.
speak about it in an educated way, like you said, to your board, to your donors, to your members, to your stakeholders, your volunteers, etc. And nonprofits are experts in their missions, their impact, their projects. They're not necessarily experts in accounting, and who can blame them?
Hmm.
There's so much to be done that no one has the time to sit down and become an expert in fund accounting, or cost analytical accounting, or
Exactly.
whatever. And we just want to give them the basics that they need to be able to understand what's happening, understand where the money is coming from, where it's going, so that they can scale and grow as the time goes on.
I love that. And you know me, I always love creating approachable, digestible, information for people to understand accounting and hopefully as plain English as we can make it. I know it's
Yeah.
not the most exciting topic in the world. Believe me, I'm an accountant. I'm even going to say that. But how we can create information that's easy to read, easy to share, and hopefully for those of you that are either starting nonprofits or maybe you're new to an organization, whether it's a board role or a leadership role,
Mm.
maybe you're running an organization and you don't come from that background, it's at least a good primer for that. Of course, you all know my website already, I think, thecharitycfo.com. But Trish, can you share a little bit more about where people can find that blog that you mentioned with all those, maybe your newsletter, how to subscribe to that and get those actionable things?
Absolutely. So our website is www.springly.org, a Springly like spring with an ly.org, and our blog is springly.org/blog. So it has all those 700 articles, like I mentioned previously, and you will find information on the accounting ebook with the Charity CFO on our website. So springly.org.
Good, good. And who knows, maybe more content to come for all of
Oh,
you
I certainly hope so.
looking for more financial management. I know it's a topic that's intimidating for people, but hopefully we make it, like I said, as digestible as possible. So,
Listen, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
exactly, exactly. Well, Trish, this has been a lot of fun. I'm really excited to introduce this platform. Like I said earlier, we get asked all the time, Tasha, what are your favorite platforms? What do you like? What do you not like? I love having one-stop shops that talk to each other, not just as somebody that serves on a board of a nonprofit, but a donor of many
Mm,
nonprofits. It makes me crazy
absolutely.
when I see all of this disorganization with fundraising and mixing,
Hmm.
different, even just mail merges and all of these sorts of things. I'm also pay for membership. And so that's always weird. I was just trying to,
Yeah.
in my neighborhood, I was trying to like renew my little, thing. And it's like, no, you cannot update your credit card. It was a really bad platform for that. Anyway,
Mm,
so as somebody that is
let's
an
just make it
end
easy.
user, exactly, and I'm an
Mm,
end user, but I also am the accountant that has to figure out where in the heck are all these sources of money coming from and how do I organize them in a way I can really appreciate the mission that Springly is on and how to simplify those things, especially for the smaller organizations that just really need a lot of help. And maybe it's just one
yeah,
person doing it all. So Trish, thank you for coming on and sharing with
with
us a little
pleasure.
bit more. And then Springly support and creating these resources. with us, the Charity CFO, and other partners out there. Thank you so much for all you're doing for the nonprofits in the U.S. for sure.
Oh, don't thank me. Let's thank them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, everybody. And if you found value in this podcast, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, or at least give us a review, because by you leaving a review or sharing, liking, or engaging with us, it helps other nonprofits find these resources as well. Stay well, and we'll see you all next episode. Bye now.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to a Modern Nonprofit podcast powered by the Charity CFO. If your nonprofit is needing help with accounting or bookkeeping, head on over to thecharitycfo.com to find information on the work we are doing with other nonprofits. If you found this information helpful, please give us a 5-star rating on your podcast streaming platform so other nonprofit leaders can find us. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next episode.